Welcome to this episode of the QBQ podcast. Today's a little different. For the first time ever, I'm joined by an entire leadership team. So you'll be hearing from Bud, Julie, and Dustin from Coast to Coast Camps, an organization serving families across the country through after school and summer camp programs. So in this episode, we're talking, of course, about QBQ, but about leadership and culture and what happens when personal accountability becomes more than just a concept, but when a team works really hard to integrate it into the culture and make it a shared language. So you'll hear how one leader discovered QBQ in an airport bookstore and how that message went on to shape a growing organization, and why asking better questions helped move responsibility forward instead of letting it bottleneck at the top. So if you lead a team in a business, a nonprofit, a ministry, or even at home, the family team, this conversation is for you. Welcome to this week's episode of the QBQ podcast. I have with me the leadership team from Coast to Coast Camps of Pacific Camps Family Resource, Inc. And I'm really excited to have all of you here with me today. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and have you just introduce yourselves.
My name is Bud Harley. I serve as the executive director for the camp. I am in Southern California, Ventura County.
Sounds wonderful. Since I'm sitting up here in Minnesota, just bracing for winter.
My name is Julie, and I am the Senior Director of California. We are here in Camarillo, California, and we're happy to be here today, so thank you.
My name is Dustin Arrieta, and I'm the Senior Director of Camp out here in South Carolina, and we operate in Greenville, Spartanburg counties in the upstate area.
Thank you so much. I love knowing that you're literally coast to coast. So this is so fun, and I'm smack dab in the middle in northern middle in Minnesota. Can someone give me an overview of what you all do on a day-to-day and then on a yearly operating schedule?
We are a Christian K through 8th grade after school and summer camp program. What we do is we really try to bridge the gap between families that may or may not be churched. We typically try to work with both. We are a parachurch organization that through the means of childcare provide a service to families, hoping to reach children and their families for the gospel in order to help them become believers in Jesus Christ and go to church. Our mission statement is to develop relationships with children and their families in order to bring them into an individual relationship with Jesus Christ. We do this again through the means of childcare. So on a day-to-day basis, we might have something in the after-school program where school ends. We pick campers up from school. We have drivers that are there, hopefully bright-eyed, big smile on their face. We pull up, we jump out of the van, let kids in, welcome to camp, get them in, bring them back. We do snack time, play time. We do homework help. We do crafts. We do chapels and devotions. We do worship through music as well as other modes of worship with kids. We know that childcare is something that is a need, right? Most parents want to raise their own kids. So what does that look like for kids when they're not necessarily going to spend time with their families? Well, somebody is going to help bridge that gap between them and their parents. And we do that through discipleship with the kids. As we're with those kids, we're trying to disciple the kids throughout the day in order to help them understand that they have a savior who loves them. That's kind of our day-to-day thing in the after-school program. Now, summer camp is a whole different beast in itself.
Sure.
We're open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. In California, they go to the beach, they go to the pool, they go to Magic Mountain. Out in South Carolina, we go to the lakes, we go to water parks, we go to an amusement park out here. So there's all different kinds of things that we do, but all of it is looking through that lens of how do we work with children in order to disciple them and love them so they know that they are loved unconditionally from a God who just wants to know them so bad that God will do anything and everything to reach them and help them grow and to be the best human that they can be. And hopefully, as they accept him into their hearts, then we can get them planted in a church that we partner with and help them understand what discipleship looks like.
Oh, I love that so much. We're just going to have some fun today hearing about how you all have utilized QBQ. And so, of course, I want to start off with Bud. You've been a fan for a very long time, and we, of course, appreciate your support and your belief in QBQ. What led you to bring the message of personal accountability into Coast to Coast?
I remember going through an airport and going through the books at the airport, and I came upon the QBQ book. The thing that I was struggling with most was trying to figure out how to solve the problem of personal accountability not only in my own life, but in the sphere of influence with the staff. And it permeates not only the camp, but at the time I was serving as a pastor and trying to figure out how to stop the finger pointing, how to stop procrastinating, and how to stop, I think, just the overall sense of it's not my job. As the executive director, I look at it and think every problem points to me. And that load sometimes can be really, really heavy. And how do I disseminate that to the people that are around me, not only in a church environment, not only in a company environment, but also in my own household? At the time, I was dealing with two kids that were in high school who were constantly giving excuses of why things couldn't get done.
No, teenagers doing that?
and,
No way.
and I think it just, for me, it really sparked, how do I solve this problem? And I always say, read the first chapter of QBQ,
Mm.
and that in itself should give you evidence of whether or not to read chapters 2 and beyond. And so as I went through that, I read it in its entirety on the flight from, at the time, I think I was going from South Carolina to California. And at the end of it, I was just like, how do I get this into the hands of every person that I know? Um,
I love
and
it.
we started off the very first time with, I think I just handed it to the current leadership team that was there, and then we just sort of walked through it chapter by chapter, and then continued with, I think the next book we went through was Flipping the Switch,
Mm.
and then we went through the Specs and Planks, and that was the one I went through with the church staff.
Yeah. Yep.
Later, we went through the Raising Accountable Kids, and then Outstanding.
You've done it
Um,
all.
yeah, I think that was really it. How do we move things forward? How do I take action in difficult situations, and then teach and train the staff that are around me the same principles so that we were talking the same language.
I love that, how you as a leader felt the bottleneck of, okay, all the problems are here. How do I get it, as you said, disseminated or delegated or moving forward, and then also teach that skill? You saw it as, this is my responsibility. I need to find a tool to make this process better. You took that on, and I love that you just found it in an airport bookstore. That's so fantastic.
Right.
I appreciate your recommendation to give the book a little glance.
The things that makes the QBQ books so easy, as Bud said, like, hey, just read the first chapter. The nice thing about the
Yeah,
books is the first chapter is a couple of pages. You can read the first chapter in, less than 3 minutes.
absolutely.
That real attention getter is pretty cool, as opposed
Yeah.
to who wants to read 2 chapters of a book to determine if they're going to like it. Well, do you have 3 minutes of your time?
Dustin, since you jumped in there, you shared in your email to me that Bud's introduction of QBQ to the staff made a real lasting impression on you. Can you tell us about that?
Having Bud bringing QBQ to the group was really eye-opening for me. I was young when I started working for Bud. I was in my early 20s and jumped onto his leadership team there. And one of the things that I think that I was really struggling with as just trying to grow up is, how do I become professional? How do I be taken seriously? As well as how do I take steps forward? And like when we started talking about QBQ, that was such a natural way for me to take a look at myself inwardly and go, well, how am I addressing these things in my own life and the interactions that are happening in my own life? What kind of mindset am I taking? Am I taking a blame mindset of going, hey, like, I'm going to try to step up this ladder and step on anyone on my way up to trying to kind of get myself ahead? Or am I going to look inwardly and say, what do I need to do to make sure that we as a team are succeeding? And then when we as a team succeed and we're all working together, well, then naturally more opportunities are going to open up. So QBQ really helped changed my mindset from that blame shift mindset, and I take that into my personal life. I've taken that into my marriage. I've taken that into the way I interact with people at church, my staff, my friends. It's been life changing.
That perspective as an up and coming young leader moving into that career phase of life, that young married, I think it's really important that that tool continues to get taught in that phase of life. I was actually just in Nashville, Tennessee 2 days ago when I was emailing you all questions trying to prep for this, and I was at an emerging leaders conference. I'm grateful that the older generation is seeing the importance of passing tools like this on. It's not a tool to just forget about. It's one to say, oh, the next generation needs this too. It is timeless in that way. It is a mindset that is never going to go away. It's not something that, what's the next? I mean, I'm a millennial, Dustin, I assume. Are you a millennial?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm like the oldest millennial, like literally basically a Gen Xer type millennial. What's the next
But making
one
it
down?
look good.
Right, thank you. My kids are like the tail end of Gen Z, and then they're the beginning of the alphas. Anyway, they need this too. That's my whole point. So we have to keep passing that along. The language might shift a little bit, but the general principle is the same. I have to take ownership. I have to be accountable for my growth, for my relationships, for my career, for my impact in the world. That's really important. Julie, I don't want to leave you out. So tell me about QBQ. Tell me about how it's made an impression in your life, how you've seen it impact the leadership meetings at Coast to Coast.
I love the intentionality of it. I love the striving for excellence. I was a former teacher when I came to camp. It was the beginning of the shutdown of COVID, and Bud brought me in to help with some of the distance learning pods. I knew nothing about camp, so I came in to help with the academic side. And then once the kids were done with their activities, I loved that opportunity to step into the role to now facilitate and help these directors. As we brought in the book, I just loved to have a tool. I think there's things in it that I've always thought and believed and tried to implement in my life, but I didn't really have the words or the basis or felt like I had the message to send. It was just kind of something ingrained in me. And so to have the book, I think it was just a great way to come together, to go through this book together, discuss and apply it in just such practical ways. And it's such an easy read to then facilitate fantastic discussions with our staff to then have it trickle down. And we would take the discussion in our director meeting that we would have that we continue to have on Mondays. And then the directors would then take the book to their staff meetings that they would have later in the week, so that those same conversations that we were modeling in the director meetings would then facilitate down and trickle down into the counselors who are down into the age of 18. So I think, as we were saying before, it's reaching the different ages, it's impacting them in their lives wherever they're at, and helping them to rise up into that personal accountability. So it's fun to see. I'm a mom of 4 and my children are 25 to 17. It's fun to see how I've implemented some of these items, knowing or unknowingly know from QBQ, but also going through flipping the switch, raising accountable kids, and seeing that, pouring that into their lives, watching them use those resources and tools and that confidence at home or with the staff here, to see them stepping up into those, and that maybe they didn't have that in their family. They didn't have the opportunity to talk and to learn and to grow. And so at camp, we're giving them that opportunity for them to step into that. And we're raising new leaders in the organization. So it's really exciting.
It's probably been 14, 15 years since we've been going through QBQ, and we've had staff that have been on board sometimes this whole time. As we've gone through the series of books, we have just used this pretty consistently. I remember having one staff member saying, "Oh no, not QBQ again." and again, I remember hearing a pastor going through a whole repertoire of different books and was saying, "Hey, we're going to be going through John chapter 15 yet again." Someone said, "Well, is there anything that's going to be new or different?" And the pastor's response was, "When everyone starts doing the things we said the first time, we know we're on track." Again, I believe so wholeheartedly, with the understanding that by our nature, it is not natural for us to take ownership. It's quite the opposite. We try to figure out how to blame other things or other people.
Point those fingers.
Point those fingers.
And so I would say, for us, how many times are we going to go through the different books that QBQ puts out And I would say it's probably never going to end, no different than as you're reading a chapter in the Bible and you say, wow, I never saw that before. I can't begin to say how many times we've had staff who have gone through the books before and say, wow, I really got this gem that I never saw before.
Well, until we're living it perfectly, which we never will, it's always good, like you say, to have those reminders. And as we say in the book, repetition is the motor of learning. We have to repeat, we have to refresh, we have to go back over it. Actually, that kind of reminds me, it's something that Julie said, that you grew up this way. It was ingrained in who you are. I've had so many people tell me that over the years, like, this is how I was raised, but there was no language for it. There was no name for it. There was no framework for it. Now I have a way to explain how I was raised. Really, I was raised to be a QBQ person, and now I know what that is, and I can teach it systematically to other people. I love that. Having that same language, how do you think that has helped propel the team forward in making ownership and accountability a core value at Coast to Coast?
I think trying to put it into the foundation of our culture has been important, from bringing it, as I mentioned before, into leadership meetings and staff trainings, all the way into conversations with parents and the children as we're dealing with, either discipline issues or just fairness issues at camps. It's something that everyone on staff is responsible for. And so it's not that the director has to manage it at the site as a whole. The director can manage it, the counselors can manage it, the children can manage it. We can have those conversations with the parents individually, and then we can all partner together. We can work together, because it doesn't require position. I think that was in flipping the switch. The ownership does not require any kind of position. We all can step into that place, and what can I do in this moment to help? I think that impacts with the parents as we are building the relationships with them, because they understand that we're listening, that we're trying to grow. If they have a concern or a frustration, we're listening, we're taking ownership of this happened. They're coming to us with a complaint. Wow, thank you. We will work on this as a team. We will talk to our team. We will grow in this area. Thank you for the feedback.
That builds trust with them.
Yeah. It does. It builds trust. We're willing to change. They're willing to change. They're willing to try to help their child change. And I think it brings a greater impact.
That really is key, because it doesn't matter if you're a nonprofit, a for-profit, if you're flipping burgers. It's the accountability of the individual to say, how can I solve this situation that is before me?
Right. Whether I caused it, whether you caused it, whether it just happened, none of that matters, honestly. At the end of the day, it's how can I help? Can I make this better in this moment? And usually there's something I can do.
Oh, there's always something.
Always. Even if it's just a smile and a hug.
It really is, I think, the very basics of customer service. When I'm frustrated over a situation, regardless of whether or not I want to have Diet Coke or mustard with my hamburger, and it's not there, what makes the difference is someone coming up and saying, here, I solved the problem for you.
Right.
Without going into all the details, if I can solve the problem for someone, it's advancing that person's day.
Yep.
I also think that these things line up with our faith, right? It's also this idea of, what can I do to model responsibility? What can I do to love this person and serve them in a way that may or may not be my responsibility, but it's something that, like, hey, if I can do it, I should do it. I think it's this serving mentality. When we try to outserve each other, we tend to work a lot better together, right? It's when we start going, nah, I think that's your job, that it's like, okay.
Or, I
you kind of retreat a little bit.
Now it's your turn to serve
it's your
me.
turn now. Yeah.
And whether or not that's in a work environment, a church environment, a business environment, or, to be honest with you, in my home environment, the more I can serve my wife and my kids, and them seeing that, they understand that serving is part of it. And serving sometimes just means, how do I solve the problem?
It's the importance of stepping into it and taking that action. That was one of the big impacts in a question you'd asked in preparation for this. It's the action portion of it.
The big impact for you was the action?
I think just stepping into, what is my role and how do I step into it? And it's the taking action.
Yeah. Being able to see that, actually do it.
Yeah, and it's something we all can do.
As we wrap up today, I hope what stood out to you wasn't just what Coast to Coast Camps does, but how they lead. You've heard it again and again. Accountability doesn't require a position. There's always something I can do, and a culture is built when each individual is willing to take action instead of pointing fingers. In the next episode, we will take this conversation even deeper. I'll still be joined with Bud and Julie and Dustin, and we'll dive into parenting, even fostering and raising the next generation of accountable kids and leaders, even when you're not a parent yet, because we all have a role, we all play a role in bringing up the next generation. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in part 2.